Yeah. Okay.
So I'm not sure if more people are coming, but I see the rooms are like already closed.
Okay, I'll get started and not get too far behind. All right, well, thanks for coming. My name is Abigail Flaugher, and I am a BCBA at the Autism Clinic at Hope, and my current role is a regional director. I help oversee several of our different clinics. My presentation today is about selecting an ABA provider and how to evaluate the quality of services. A little bit more about me is that I have been in the field of ABA for the past 7 years. I officially became a BCBA in 2021. I have been providing clinic-based services to clients ages 2 to 10 years old. I've had the unique opportunity to experience all of the roles that the Autism Clinic has to offer. This includes registered behavior technician, board-certified behavior analyst, site director, regional director. So I have seen the delivery of services from several different points of view, and so it's given me a really great idea of what does quality services truly look like. My areas of clinical interest currently are functional communication training, toilet training, family guidance, and training and assisting behavior technicians and other staff. I'm sure that many people listening have a loved one diagnosed with autism. For some, this diagnosis, it may be the answer you've been searching for. For others, it might be an intimidating new reality. But regardless of your circumstance, you are not alone. Recently, the CDC, they just came out with some new data, and currently 1 in 31 children in the United States is diagnosed with autism spectrum disorder. All genders, races, socioeconomic classes are impacted by this diagnosis. I'm sure if you've searched Google for possible routes of therapy, there are countless suggestions. Your autism Facebook support group has a variety of ideas and opinions and advice, solicited or unsolicited. Your other children's teachers, I'm sure they're giving you a handful of tips and tricks on how to navigate this diagnosis and help your child. But how are you really supposed to know what the best course of action is? Well, there are many therapies that are beneficial for the treatment of autism. Speech therapy, occupational therapy, speech, physical therapy, and so on. But there's one treatment that has been shown with years of data to be most effective and address the symptoms and challenges posed by autism, and this is ABA. Well, what is ABA? ABA is Applied Behavior Analysis, ABA in short, and it's an individualized behavioral approach to therapy to identify behaviors for increase and behaviors for reduction. The use of assessments and parent and client collaboration help guide and determine what behaviors and skills are to be targeted. Just as every child with autism spectrum disorder experiences the world and environment differently, each client's ABA therapy looks different. It's an extremely individualized approach and client-based. ABA focuses on areas of cognition, language, social skills, behavior management, skill acquisition, daily living skills, and honestly, so much more. Everything in our life can be led to ABA. So it's really the combination of these focuses that's unique for each client and is dependent on what is most significant for that individual to learn and take away from services. ABA focuses and emphasizes on measurable progress that is consistently monitored and reevaluated. This is one thing that makes ABA unique, is that we are constantly evolving with the client and making sure that we are providing what is most necessary for them in that moment in time. It's the practitioner's role to teach a child how to access success and reinforcement while living with ASD The goal is to not change who that child or that person is, but to hone in on their skills so that they can achieve their highest levels of independence and have meaningful and impactful relationships throughout life. Some things to consider is that now that you have become a little bit more familiar with ABA and what that field consists of, and you're like, okay, this is where I want to move forward. I think that this is a great stepping stone for my child. There are several different factors to consider. Every ABA agency differs in a few ways, and it's important to know how to distinguish what those differences may be. One factor is service availability. The ability and convenience of ABA clinics vary depending on the geographical location. Sometimes you're in a very saturated environment and city, and there are so many different ABA agencies to choose from, and one's 5 miles away, one's 2 miles away. There are other instances where you're driving 50 minutes to bring your child to therapy, and that's the only provider in that area. And so really, it's like, is this something that is geographically you're able to do? Also, if you are traveling that far, is your child just going to be receiving ABA during their time there, or will there be other services available to them? Often, ABA agencies collaborate with other providers and have a multidisciplinary approach to services. And so there might be a speech-language pathologist on staff who jumps into ABA sessions and provides her services. An occupational therapist may come and go and see your child. So the child is never leaving the building, but there are so many different providers and services that they are touching base with throughout their week of services. But once a clinic is identified, it's important to acknowledge the availability within that particular site. So what is the wait list length? I'm sure when you had your child diagnosed with autism, you were on a wait list for quite some time. And so, wait lists you're no stranger to those. So it's, what is this wait list length? What are the requirements to be on this wait list? Once we are removed from the list, what is the speed to services? How quickly can my child be seen? Next, so ABA is often insurance funded. There are times where you can pay out of pocket and have private payment and all of the things, but a lot of our services, they are guided by insurance. Treatment plans go through a rigorous approval process, and we want to make sure that we are providing significant and relevant therapy to your child. And a lot of this approval comes from insurance. So does your child have a primary care physician referral that you can use for services so that insurance can see, yeah, I also agree that ABA could be beneficial for your child. What insurances are networked with the providers available? We see a lot of the popular commercial insurances, and there are a lot of different coverage plans, and all of the things that ABA agency's billing department can help guide you through. After your benefits have been relayed and the cost of services has been communicated, is this something that you'd like to pursue? ABA can be a very expensive therapy, and so that is also an important decision factor. ABA comes in many different shapes and sizes. It is not a one-size-fits-all. It's important to identify the qualities that make each agency unique, and this is combing through some of their service models. There are two popular service models. One is a comprehensive model, and this comprehensive approach targets several different skill areas within a large number of hours per week. For example, a 3-year-old diagnosed with autism comes to us, and that client presents with deficits in the areas of language, social skills, daily living skills, and they display a wide range of behaviors for reduction. Right now, school isn't really on the table for them, and really some intensive therapy is what will help that child reach that next stepping stone. This client may be best suited for 30 to 40 hours of ABA therapy per week. Whereas a focused approach targets and emphasizes a fewer number of skills within a shorter number of hours per week. For example, a 10-year-old client's most significant skill deficit might be social skills, and he is doing really well in his academic setting in his blended classroom at his school district. This client, he clearly does not require 40 hours of therapy per week, but ABA would still be beneficial for him. This client may be best suited for 10 to 15 hours of ABA per week, and it's more of an after-school program, a supplement to his education, rather than in replace of. Every agency kind of differs in, well, do we provide only comprehensive therapy and we have all of our clients attending services 20 to 40 hours per week? Do we provide only focused therapy and we pop in as an after-school type of therapy? Or do we offer both? Do we see clients for 40 hours per week, and do we, go into the child's home 6 hours per week and provide therapy there? So it's important to ask the question of what different service modalities and models will be accessible to my child while they're receiving services with you. Based on the types of approaches available at each clinic, this may impact the age range of children receiving services and the age of children that your child is around. For a clinic that emphasizes comprehensive therapy is likely to see clients between the ages of 3 and 8 years old. It's more than likely that they are receiving comprehensive therapy in replace of school to help them merge into the educational classroom around 1st or 2nd grade. Whereas a clinic that sees clients who have focused therapy, those kiddos, they might be a little bit older, and they might not even be kiddos. They could reach all the way up to 18 years old. Often, in-clinic therapy is not always the only option. There might be instances where your child would benefit more from in-home therapy, a combination of family guidance and parent training and support and teaching siblings on how to hang out and be friends with their older brother as well. There might be community-based learning opportunities, and so, really my child, she does well with she does okay at school, she does well socially, but every time we take her into Target, she's swiping all of the shelves, and I can't help her. I don't know how to help her hold the shopping cart while we're walking. That might be a great opportunity for your child and her practitioner to go into Target together and learn those community-based skills. I don't know, that sounds like a wonderful afternoon to me. There's also ABA that can be pushed into an educational classroom. And so, your child might be doing really great academically, and he's getting good grades, and he's sitting in his chair, but he will, for the life of him, will not transition out of the classroom to PE, to art, and back to the classroom. And so, what do? I can't help him. And so, a behavior therapist, a behavior analyst, she may go in and okay, let's use some visuals, let's do these supports, let me help you as a teacher, you as a parent, and together we can work together as a team to help this child, get over this barrier and, be able to transition throughout the school. So there are a lot of different settings that ABA could be applicable in, and it doesn't just have to be in the clinic, doing very specific training and working one-on-one. ABA can be everywhere for all different types of learners and all different types of areas of growth. Overall, choosing the right ABA provider is a particularly important decision for a family. You're trusting a group of complete strangers to provide care for one of your most loved people in your life. And so Whether they check all of your boxes, some of your boxes, or none of them, it's okay, and you need to make a decision that will best suit your learner, your child. Each organization has different types of qualifications, one being accreditation. So, yeah, I see that my child is receiving somebody that has the word certified in their title, so they must have gone through some type of education and they have some type of academic background and they've passed some test. Woohoo, good for them. But how is this being monitored? And how is the agency as a whole kept accountable for the services that they're providing? Well, this is through accreditations. There are many different types of accreditations. ACQ, the Autism Commission on Quality, BHCOE, Behavioral Health Center of Excellence, are just two of them, but there are so many different ones. And really the goal of an accreditation is to ensure that the checks and balances of the services that there are checks and balances of services. And this also limits the variability of ABA services and provides consistent and quality care for all of the families impacted and receiving our services. Because while we are seeing the client, we're seeing the child, we know and understand that the child is not the only person who is benefiting and being impacted by the services that we provided. There are several different stakeholders and consumers of our therapy, whether that is parents, grandparents, siblings, teachers, other providers. There are a lot of different stakeholders. And accreditation helps to make sure that all of those stakeholders are protected from any type of malpractice within the agency. Each accreditation has different standards that the agency must meet. Kind of in a nutshell, some of these standards could be a standardized intake process. So every client who's seeking services is treated fairly and equally, and there is a black and white way of onboarding clients. It requires different types of quality measurements throughout the client's time receiving services. Are treatment plans being monitored? Is there BCBA, actively seeking recertification as they should? Once my child is no longer seen, or I no longer believe that ABA is the best fit for my child, how is that child going to be discharged and discontinued from services? And is there a fluid way to be doing this? And so that's one of the ways that accreditations can help put safeguards in place for your child. Is there interdepartment collaboration? So how does the organization work within itself? Are there specialty departments to ensure accurate and completion of tasks? Some essential departments of ABA agency might be billing, human resources, quality assurance, training. I know for one thing that my clients do not want me to handle the billing with their insurance companies. And so it's important that each practitioner remains within their scope of practice and has good communication with the other branches within the organization. So billing, obviously they help with your billing, and they are kind of the middleman between me as the provider, you, and the insurance company. So they communicate with insurance providers and payers to ensure efficient and accurate billing. HR will help mitigate any issues amongst employees, ensuring that the focus of the BCBA is on the client and the services that they are providing. Training, they may provide direction to new and current hires to maintain a high quality of care. A training department may also be beneficial because it's more than likely that just because you're seeking services in Springfield, Illinois, doesn't mean that that's the only clinic within that agency. There's, so many all around, and we want to make sure that services are fluid and similar across all locations, and there isn't a lot of variability in technicians and the quality of practice. So a training department helps ensure that. They are hands-on training every single new hire that walks into the door. And so we know that everybody is starting right on the same foot. Quality assurance will closely monitor the services actively provided. And so, yes, there's a chain of command and people report to different people, but whose job really is it to sit down at the end of the day and see, okay, is this treatment plan written correctly? Are these assessments really what is important for this child to be learning? So that department helps to, keep people on the straight and narrow and provide the best services possible. What are the safety procedures and safety checks in place? We all know that our world is becoming increasingly scary, and you are trusting your loved one into this building. So how can they be safe while they're here? Are there tornado drills, active intruder drills? Are there, earthquake drills? So many things that they need to practice and know, not only for their benefit, while they're at the clinic, but as they continue on with their life, they will be in academic settings and they will be exposed to fire drills and earthquakes and tornadoes, and someday it may not even be a drill and they have to tolerate the sirens going off in the classroom and the change of routine and a large group of people. And so part of these drills are also ways that we can help them become familiar with some of the things that they'll be exposed to outside of our setting. And so part of that is the quality assurance, is that they will make sure that these safety checks are in place. Like I said, a BCBA has a defined scope of services, and so it's important that each practitioner is practicing within those competencies. And so each BCBA is only administering care for what they are specifically trained for and what is within their scope of competence. Of course, this can increase and this can grow, and it should be growing. It's important that everybody is continuing their education and becoming more well-rounded and providing a larger range of services. But a BCBA can only expand their scope of competency after accessing and documenting appropriate study, training, and supervision of professionals competent in the new area. I would not be able to watch one presentation on teaching addition and say, okay, yep, that is now within my scope. There are so many different types of checks and balances in place to ensure that that truly is within my scope, so that I am teaching your child things that I should be. If a skill area that a parent has a concern with is not in that particular BCBA scope of competence, then you should be referred elsewhere. So this could be a doctor if it's a medical concern, a speech-language pathologist, occupational therapist, physical therapist, or a different BCBA. Every BCBA has different specialty skills, whereas, one of my specialty skills is toilet training and not so much feeding, but I know one of my fellow coworkers, he is very knowledgeable on feeding, and it is within his scope. So the two of us, we collaborate a lot on these issues. So who do you collaborate with? Who can I see to help me with these concerns? Client needs are constantly evolving. That is one characteristic of autism, that just because it's a concern today doesn't mean it's a concern tomorrow. And just because it wasn't a concern today doesn't mean it won't be a concern tomorrow. And so we are making sure, and we want to make sure, that our skills are also evolving so that we can overcome this barrier and be able to provide services on the spot for all of our clients. And so what is the frequency of trainings? What's the content of training? Who is providing the trainings? Many BCBAs, they seek training from Behavioral Life or from other CEU sources, from each other, from so many different resources. So once these trainings have been presented and completed, how are the BCBAs monitored to ensure the clinical cases are being carried out properly? And so this is through the Quality ABA Assurance Program. And a quality assurance should look at the areas of treatment plan writing, rate of client progress and maintenance of skills, the supervision and support of the RBTs, and consistency of collaboration. This collaboration could be parents, outside providers, the school or education system. But most importantly, BCBAs function under the guidance and adherence to a governing board, and this is the Behavior Analyst Certification Board, the BACB. And the BACB is important because the purpose of it is to establish standards, administer exams to provide ethics requirements, and a disciplinary system for certificates. It's kind of a home base for all of the BCBAs. It's where we can get new information, put new information, receive and have access to all of the different journal articles to read, research, and to learn more. It also is where we apply and we sign up for our board exams, where our direct staff does the same. And it is what houses our ethics code. Part of having a strict ethics code is what really makes ABA it makes the practitioners really stay true to the skills that they have, stay true to their treatment plans, and always keep the client's best interest in mind. So this BCBA that I keep talking about, who is this person? What does this person do? What even is a BCBA? Well, a BCBA is a board-certified behavior analyst, and wow. And so part of the role of a BCBA is to determine what programming should be done, assess and aid the clients, supervise the technicians. They're really taking charge and in control of that client's particular therapy. And so a BCBA is credentialed through the BACB. In order to become a board-certified behavior analyst, you must complete extensive fieldwork hours, which includes direct and indirect time with clients. And you receive supervision from a practicing BCBA, and that BCBA must be within their scope to provide supervision to graduate students. And you must complete required master's level coursework and apply and sit for the board exam. Upon passing the board exam, the individual is then board certified. But that is not where the learning ends. It is required to continue your education and to receive these credits on a biannual basis in several different categories, being supervision, ethics, and general behavior analytic content. All of this to say is that becoming a BCBA is very extensive and closely monitored. Yes, anyone can become a BCBA, and I encourage everyone to look into the field. It has been one of the most rewarding decisions that I have made thus far, but it's important to recognize that there are a lot of stepping stones into achieving this credential, and it's a lot of responsibility to maintain this credential. And so I feel that you can recognize the BCBA as somebody who is willing to provide the work and the effort into making sure that your loved one is receiving quality care. The BCBAs, they have to, they adhere to the BACB, and like I said, they adhere to the ethics code, and there is a way for the ethics to be reported back to the BACB. We make sure that all of the behavior analysts keep each other accountable and are closely monitoring adherence to the ethics code. State licensure. Currently, 33 out of 50 states require licensure to practice as a BCBA. So not only is the individual being credentialed through the governing board, but they are also being licensed through the state that they practice within. State licensures are an additional safeguard in place to ensure ethical and quality services. As the ABA is a science of human behavior, these safeguards are in place to ensure that all clients and stakeholders are protected. It's essential to recognize that BCBAs have to not only model and exhibit their core competencies and know what is in the textbook and how to provide this therapy, but they are also in charge of in charge of your child while they're receiving therapy, and they are supervising the person who's working directly with your child. And so what are the soft skills that this individual is showing? Some soft skills that might be, applicable to look for while you're completing this intake process would be, is this person adaptable? Are they willing to listen to my concerns and pivot accordingly? Clear and concise written and oral communication. A treatment plan is a whole written document that's submitted to insurance, and it's then part of your child's electronic medical record. And so it's important that document is thorough and grammatically correct, and something that is worth giving to insurance. Are they a critical thinker? Teamwork? Are they willing to collaborate with your child's other providers, their teacher, their speech pathologist? How is this person going to make sure that people are on the same page? Or organization is a huge one, and these are just a few of the skills that a BCBA should emanate. And so I'm sure once you've arrived to the spot of where you think that ABA is the best course of action for your child, I'm sure you've met a lot of providers along the road, and you already have an idea of who you do not want to see your child. And so these are all just things to remember and recognize while you're completing this intake process. Each provider has different strengths. During the onboard process, it's advantageous to acquire about specialty skills. Some of these skills may include daily living or adaptive skills. Some examples of these can be dressing, hand washing, toilet training, teeth brushing, all of the things. Feeding, social skills, sleeping, communication training, and behavior reduction are all different types of specialty skill sets that the BCBA can aid your child in. And then the final thing is a BCABA. A BCABA is a board-certified assistant behavior analyst. They have gone through similar fieldwork experience. They've completed similar master's levels coursework. They have just passed a different exam that makes them an assistant rather than the BCBA. The BCABA still functions underneath the BCBA, so they are still receiving direct supervision from the board-certified behavior analyst. Next, the board-certified behavior analyst, they are assessing your client, writing the treatment plan, they're communicating with parents and other providers. But are they really the ones that are hands-on, teaching the skills and doing the goals? Oftentimes, no, they are not. That would be the registered behavior technician, the RBT. And so this is who your child is spending the most of their day with. The RBT, transitions with them, helps give them lunch, takes them to the bathroom, plays with them, talks to them, teaches them. They do all of the things. They become best buds and build rapport and just kind of hang out together during the day. So an RBT, having rapport with an RBT is almost more important than having rapport with the BCBA. The RBT is the one their job is to make sure that the learning is taking place and that they are doing the learning correctly. They are meeting the learning opportunities, whereas the board-certified behavior analyst is supervising the RBT, making sure that this is all happening. So like I said, the RBT will implement and run the behavior analytic programs, assist with meal times, the restroom, and they definitely build a strong rapport with one another. So who can really become an RBT? Well, the process of becoming registered includes 40 hours of specific ABA training, and so these programs teach these individuals exactly what an RBT needs to know to be successful in that position. A competency assessment between the person seeking certification and the board-certified behavior analyst or an assistant assessor. And an exam. The exams are proctored exams at testing centers. Just as I have passed, they have one as well. Upon passing the exam, the individual is then registered. This is an important credential as it holds the individual to their own ethical standards. So RBTs, they have their own version of an ethics code that they must also follow. And it also ensures that this individual is receiving specific and predetermined amounts of supervision from a BCBA within a month. Each RBT is required to have 5% supervision per month from a BCBA. So that means that however much they're working direct, they need to be supervised 5% of that time. A quality organization will make registering an individual a top priority. They want to make sure that your child is receiving care from the highest trained staff as possible, and that this staff is held to these specific ethical standards. Right. Collaboration opportunities. So it's important that all of the child's providers are on the same page. We want to ensure continuity of care and that the client's programming across therapies is similar, but doesn't necessarily overlap. We understand that the client's time is valuable and needs to be respected, and that ABA in this very intensive form is not a lifelong answer. And so we want to work with the child's other providers to give this child as much tools and resources that we can to help them achieve success without receiving 40 hours of intensive therapy. One way we also want to do this to help promote generalization and maintenance. It's important that an individual is able to admit the same skills and behaviors across all people, settings, and over a long course of time. If a child is able to brush their teeth at the clinic with me, but then they refuse to brush their teeth at home with mom and dad, then that doesn't really matter. That's not very relevant or significant to them or the parents. And so my role is to make sure that I am collaborating with the family, teaching the family, and making sure that this child's skills go beyond the clinic doors. Not only do I want to, but there's also an ethical obligation to coordinate treatment with outside providers and caregivers. And this can look differently for all cases, but here are some different ways that it could look. So multidisciplinary, they have followed the HIPAA guidelines and they have the correct documentation in place to communicate with different providers, such as your child's OT. If your BCBA is, struggling to teach this child fine motor imitation, they can collaborate with the child's OT and get some insight on what they can do to help this child access success and reinforcement at the clinic. And vice versa, if the OT is working on zipping up the child's coat, but he just throws a tantrum every time I give him the coat, what can I do? You can provide behavioral support to that provider. Parent and caregiver guidance is arguably one of the most important collaboration opportunities. As the client's caregiver, it's important that you are able to implement the ABA, manage the behavior, and communicate with your child in home and community settings. And this goes beyond the parent and the caregiver. We're often teaching siblings on how to implement ABA and to manage these situations, grandparents, babysitters, really anybody who is part of this child's life is somebody that we want to collaborate with and communicate with to ensure that continuity of care and a mutual understanding of these clients' goals. The field of ABA is so unfamiliar, even when your child is in it, it's still unfamiliar. It's constantly evolving, and your child is constantly evolving. And so working together with the BCBA in a close relationship will help give you reassurance and understanding of how to evolve with all of the changes as well. This guidance can help you understand why your child engages in particular behaviors, how to best support your child, how to adjust your environment to promote your child's success, and how you can teach other people in your life how to do the same. And this guidance and support can happen at whatever frequency you and the BCBA consider best fit. I've had families who who didn't need much support at one point, and then all of a sudden something changed and we're providing a lot of consistent support. Or it can go the other way. We're providing a lot of consistent support and parents are learning and I'm learning and the child is learning, and then we can fade back some of that support over time. And so it's definitely fluid and it's just based on whatever your top concerns are in that moment in time. IEP attendance and collaboration. Often clients are receiving services at the same time that they're receiving school. They might receive 20 hours of school and 20 hours of ABA throughout the week. And so you want to make sure that your teachings are parallel to that teacher's and you're working together and not against one another. And then any other outside provider collaboration, like I said, OT, PT, all of the things. Some of these clients, they are working harder than I do during the week, and they're receiving school and therapy from 8 a.m. to 6 p.m. And so who are you collaborating with that they're seeing in that large chunk of time? In conclusion, autism is becoming increasingly prevalent. And so whether it is all of these opportunities for diagnosis is becoming available to families, and these diagnoses are giving families access to care and resources that they wouldn't otherwise have. And so how are you taking advantage of these new resources that are being given to you? Are you seeking ABA? Are you asking the right questions? Are you encouraging this collaboration? And making sure that the people providing services are the best fit for your child. While this potential BCBA might be checking off all of these boxes, ultimately at the end of the day, it's your decision as the client's parent and caregiver to make sure that you are really making that this person is going to provide your child with the highest quality of care as possible. There are so many different therapies that children with ASD or children with other developmental delays will receive throughout their lifetime. But ABA is proven to increase the skill repertoire in individuals diagnosed with ASD. And ABA is always individualized to what that particular child needs in that point of time. We're constantly monitoring and reevaluating how we can best serve this individual. And so our goal is to not change that person, but to help them receive the most success and most reinforcement possible throughout their life. ABA providers can vary for a lot of different reasons: locations, approaches to therapy, organizational requirements. And so how do all of these pieces fit together to make a quality ABA agency as a whole? Overall, some of the things that you should ask and inquire about are how your BCBA is held accountable. What type of accreditations do you have, and what are the standards of that accreditation? How are RBTs held accountable? This is the person that's spending the majority of time with my child. How do you choose the hiring? How do you implement and begin the training process? How do you ensure that this individual is remaining up to date on their therapy? But overall, selecting an ABA provider is an important decision that can leave a lasting impact on an individual with autism and your family. And so together, all of these things are questions to ask during that intake process, during those phone calls that you have with whoever the referral coordinator is or the BCBA themselves, taking tours and really taking the extra step to making sure that your child is receiving the highest quality of care as possible. But overall, that is my take on how to select a quality ABA provider. Does anybody have any questions? Okay. Well, everyone? Yes?
So is it possible for an ABA provider, or BCBA or RBT to go to school with them at times to work in the school setting?
Yeah.
Is that an option?
Yep. So her question is, can a BCBA or an RBT work with a child in a school setting? Yes, there are a lot of times different ABA agencies may have school contracts, and so your child's provider at the clinic for those 20 hours can also go into their school and help with certain whatever is needed in that moment. They can go and assist with particular releases of information and collaboration with the teacher yourself, probably the special education director, things like that. But yes, that definitely is possible where the two worlds can definitely collide and overlap, and teachers can come in and observe the ABA services, the BCBAs can go in and observe the education, and all of the things. Good question. Well, thank you everybody for your time, and I hope that you learned something new today. Thank you.
Like, I worked for a long time in the field of like autism and special needs and little kids. Like, say if I want to look into like, getting the route of like BCBA and things like that, just to add to my qualification. So we do the RBT, like that's really the first step, I would assume, or no?
It could be. It doesn't have to be. There are a lot of people that begin the process without ever practicing as an RBT. But then I would suggest as you are sitting through your master's program, you would still have to require some type of master's fieldwork. It may not be a whole master's degree for I don't know what you currently have.
Yeah, no, I did my master's, but that was in India.
Okay.
And then I did my ECE license in Canada because I lived there for a long time.
But a lot of places.
Yes. So yeah, I did my
Okay.
master's in child development, and I specialized in children with special needs. I actually studied in Australia too. I studied disability studies.
Oh wow.
Yeah. After that, like we got married. My husband, we moved to Canada. We stayed there for like 11 years. So I did my ECE license, and then I was working as a resource consultant. So I was kind of the
Okay.
bridge between
Yeah.
daycares